It was late at night and all of the city was asleep except for one bakery that had its oven on to keep its cookies fresh. And from deep inside the woods came a very sneaky raccoon who was always looking for a tasty treat. He had heard about this bakery and its delicious cookies, and he had come to steal some. It was so close to his home in the woods that it seemed like fate. But what our little bandit didn't know was that there were even tastier treats in store for him. And if he wasn't so greedy, he would have known that he wasn't the only one with eyes on the prize. He began his approach, keeping to the shadows, staying low and moving slow. Our little raccoon was a pro at breaking into people's homes and stealing their food. It wasn't that he liked the taste of human food, because the honest truth is he really didn't. It was more the thrill of the heist that got him going. The taste of victory was just better than any cookie he had ever tried. Our raccoon soon arrived at the back door of the bakery. It was big and sturdy, but it wasn't locked, and our little bandit wasted no time squeezing through the opening and finding himself inside the kitchen. But it was immediately obvious that this was a much bigger challenge than he had anticipated. The room was filled with giant bowls of cookie dough and rows upon rows of freshly baked cookies. There were chocolate chip cookies, peanut butter cookies, oatmeal raisin cookies. There were even some cookies that he had never seen before. All of these smelled absolutely divine, and as our little raccoon looked around, he quickly realized that he had made it to the promised land. This was truly a feast fit for a king. As our raccoon made his way through the kitchen, he could hear a clanking sound coming from behind the counter. He froze in his tracks and listened closely. It sounded like someone or something was moving around on the other side. He could hear things being moved, footsteps and quiet chattering. What could it be? Well, our little raccoon was very curious, but he was also very hungry. So instead of investigating, he decided to make himself a little nest on a nearby chair, and he took a nap while waiting for an opportunity to grab some cookies. Soon, the sound stopped and everything was silent. He stretched and yawned and made his move. He scampered up the counter and dove into the nearest bowl of cookie dough. It was cold and smooth and tasted so good that he couldn't stop eating it right away. But after a few bites, he knew he needed a plan. He couldn't carry all of this cookie dough back to his home in the woods. So he did something crazy. He started eating all of the cookies in the bakery, and he ate so many that his belly was round like a balloon. But then he heard those clanking sounds again. He froze in place and peeked over the counter. He saw a little brown mouse with a piece of cheese in its mouth. It was followed by dozens of mice carrying scraps of food and crumbs. They had come for the same reason he had, the delicious smell of cookies. But there was even more. This was the home of the mouse mafia, and when they saw our raccoon, they weren't happy. They had been robbed several times before, and they knew exactly who was responsible. Their boss was a tough guy named Muscles. He was a big brown mouse with a thick mustache and a mean streak. He and his goons approached our raccoon, and Muscles demanded to know what he was doing in their territory. Our little raccoon had never been good with words, so he just shrugged and smiled innocently. Muscles wasn't buying it. He was about to teach this raccoon a lesson he wouldn't forget when suddenly the lights flicked on and a loud voice boomed through the kitchen. The humans were back. Muscles and his goons scattered. Our raccoon froze in fear, but he stayed still, hoping that he wouldn't be noticed. The humans bustled around, talking and laughing, and they didn't notice our little raccoon hiding in the corner. Once they left, he ran out of the bakery and back into the shadows. He had failed again. Maybe he should just stick to robbing bird feeders. That was much easier. But then he remembered how delicious those cookies had tasted. He had to get them even if it meant going to war with the mouse mafia. So our little raccoon devised an even sneakier plan. He waited until the next day and brought a long stick with him. Then he went to the back door and knocked. He rapped on the door just as the baker was bringing out the fresh batch of cookies. He knocked again and again and again, making it seem like there was someone else outside. The baker was suspicious, but he decided to check anyway. He opened the door, but there was no one there. Just then, our raccoon dropped down from above and grabbed a cookie. He ran off as fast as he could, and the baker slammed the door and locked it. Our little raccoon found a tree and climbed up it. He sat down on a branch and took a bite of his cookie. It was warm and soft and tasted amazing. But then he heard a voice behind him. "You're going to pay for that, raccoon." Our little raccoon turned around and saw Muscles the mouse, along with two of his goons. A fight was about to break out when suddenly the ground began to shake. A huge brown bear was coming up the tree. Our little raccoon had never seen this bear before. But he knew one thing. He didn't want to be caught in the middle of whatever was about to happen. So he threw his cookie at Muscles and yelled, "Hey, look, a treat!" The mouse and his goons stopped in their tracks and stared at the cookie. Our raccoon made a run for it, dropping down from the tree and running as fast as he could. He heard the bear roar and saw the mouse squeal. Then he kept running until he reached his den in the woods. He had escaped, but not without some serious injuries. He had scraped himself up pretty good during his getaway, and to add insult to injury, he didn't even have a cookie to show for it. But then he saw something. One of the cookies had fallen out of his bag and it was sitting right there in front of him. It was slightly crushed, but it still looked and smelled delicious. He took a bite and sighed in satisfaction. It had been worth the trouble. Then he heard some rustling in the bushes. He froze and listened closely. It sounded like footsteps. Were the mice following him? Had Muscles sent some goons to finish the job? Or was it the bear? Was it here for revenge or for cookies? Whatever it was getting closer. Our little raccoon was scared, but he wasn't giving up his hard-earned treat without a fight. He stood up and bared his teeth. He might be small, but he was brave and he was quick, and he had fought off bears before. But then he saw who it was. It was just a little field mouse. She had a kind face and she was holding out a piece of cheese. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "I saw what happened. Here, let me help." Our raccoon hesitated, but he couldn't say no to that sweet face. He took the cheese and the mouse helped him clean his wounds. "Thank you," he said. "I'm Rocky." "I'm Millie," she replied. "Say, why don't you come with me? My family lives in a field near here and we can help you with your injuries." Rocky thought for a moment. He couldn't say no to that sweet face, but he didn't want to leave his home in the woods. I don't know," he said. "My home is in the woods." "We can come with you," Millie said. "We can protect you from the mouse mafia." Rocky's eyes widened. Could he really trust her? He thought about it for a moment, then nodded his head. "Okay," he said. "Let's go." So Rocky and the mice set off into the woods together. And as they walked, Rocky couldn't help but feel like this whole thing was just a dream. A raccoon, a mouse and a bunch of field mice walking through the woods together. Who would have thought? And as for the mouse mafia, they were never seen again. The bear must have scared them all away. And the bakery? Well, Rocky never went back. He had moved on to bigger and better things, like making friends with mice and eating cheese.